Hi, my name's Laura, and I wanted to put a public service announcement out into the world. I know that we're all bound up and living moment by moment and doing what we can to get by, but I also know that what seems simple to remember often fades. I look back on my time in New York City during 9/11. And I wish so badly that I had written things down, the banal things as well as the profound things. And so this go around, I'm trying to do that. And so I know that vulnerability often inspires vulnerability. So I want to share a poem that I wrote last week called Temptress, and I want to encourage everybody else to capture sort of what they're feeling and how they're processing and making sense of the world. We need to remember. We need to remember how we got through and not just remember what we see and what we understand when we look back. I remember the sun on the Sunday afternoon before the world changed, down by the Hudson, along the West Side Highway, where the stage stood and the musicians strummed, and Lady Liberty donned her torch. I remember the way they all danced together, the band, the sky, the symbol in the water, while the people played and paced, ran and raced from one moment to the next. Each evening, especially that one, her torch caught the light sinking in the sky, ebbing down to the water where the boats docked and the kayakers rocked and lovers mingled on footpaths. Barriers languished by the languages spoken, twirling like smoke rings, weaving between buildings, skyscrapers scooting towards space. We're so lucky to live here. I remember telling my roommate, gazing up and out and all about it, the water, the grass, the towers that cast shadows of promise on the pavement, paving roads that seemed to lead everywhere. But then, 2 days later, planes sent the world tumbling. And where we lived then no longer exists now. The smell of sunshine, innocence, immortality morphed into the smell of burnt wires and dead bodies, into ash piled up at my feet. Busy streets went still, blocks became bound by blackboards, buildings turned into makeshift morgues, warnings, evacuations, and sirens soared instead of birds. The sunshine back then makes it hard to take the sunshine right now. COVID would have been kinder in the winter, where whipping wind fights with ferocity, freezing tears against your face, saving fingers from the temptation to trace wet paths upon your cheek. But it decided to come now in the spring, springing into our lives and stopping everything. And I can't block out the last time New York paused. The last time I felt guilty for enjoying the sunshine, for open windows and musing, admiring, relishing the victory of mankind, for savoring freedom and safety, music and possibility, tall buildings and even taller dreams. Until a cruel tyranny darted like a comet through everything and sliced a hole in our sky. Fire filled the gaps in the clouds, and steel fell into the roads, and so much of life became smoke. I can't stop thinking that sometimes sunshine is a rocky mockery, a blanket tattered with holes tempting us to leave our silos. I didn't know it preempted tragedy 19 years ago, but this time it all comes with a warning. This time, the calm before the storm doesn't feel so calm. This time, there are maps and charts and warnings and terrors playing out before our eyes, so I hide inside and I look outside my window. This time I sit hundreds of miles away from New York, watching from afar, far, pained and provoked by the injustice of missing masks, of disproportionate impact, waiting for the smoke to spin to the Midwest, for it to come furling and flaming down my road, tumbling like it did down John Street all those years ago, waiting for the check-ins, the tallying of who has heard from whom, for the stories of who made it out and who was left in its wake, for bagpipes and funerals, for the tales of heroes to roar over the rumble of rebels. I sit waiting for the sun to be muted by sadness, for my breath to stop, to reach for air that isn't there, for my lungs to burn, waiting because I've been there before, because I know what it feels like to gasp. The anticipation is arduous, antagonizing, agonizing, to wait so long, to touch another, to wait for it all to be over, for the night to burn out and the mornings to rise, for the new spring, the real spring, for something to bloom from the bud. But in the midst of the endless madness, I also remember that light eventually cracks darkness. I remember waking up one morning and feeling lucky again. I remember new towers casting shadows of promise on the pavement, paving roads that climb upward so you can look for a new angle on the sky. I remember realizing that the sun still sank, and even if I couldn't see her, she was still out there catching Lady Liberty's torch, ebbing down to the water, where the boats still found a place to dock, and kayakers found a place to rock, and lovers still mingled. Their words still jingled, jumping over barriers, rising above smoke rings, weaving in and out, stitching together everything. I remember when the musicians played again, even if they strummed on a different stage. I remember the sun on another Sunday afternoon, after we were all born anew, after where we lived then became where we live now. I remember when somehow we knew to pick up our pen and with a chest full of courage, set it down and begin again.